Hey guys, welcome to the fifth and final part of this tutorial where I show you how to code Google's Dino game. So I'm gonna show you what we have coded so far. We have our Dino, which is able to jump, and in the last video we managed to add collisions to the game. So when we collide with a cactus, we lose, or the game stops. Now we have some glitches actually, because if I continue pressing my spacebar key, you can see what happens, and this shouldn't be possible. So we're gonna be fixing that. We are going to add also a score class. We're gonna add a resort function. We're also going to add some sounds. So we're gonna be using these three sounds that we have here. And yeah, we're basically finishing our game. So by the end of this video, we should have the final result of our game. So yeah, let's start coding. Okay, so we're gonna start by adding our score class. So I'm gonna code it right here in between the game class and the collision class. So go ahead and type class score. It's going to have an init method, which is going to receive self as parameter, and something that I call HS, which stands for Highscore. So the properties that we're gonna have inside of our score class are gonna be obviously our Highscore, which is equal to the parameter. We're gonna have also a property called act, which stands for actual, or the actual score of the current game, and this is going to be equal to 0 at the beginning. We're also having a font, so self.font. This will be the font of our score. So this will be equal to pygame.font.sysfont. You can use whatever font you like, but I'm gonna go with monospace. And the font size, I'm gonna use 18. And the last property that we're gonna have, it's going to be a color, so the color of the score font, and this is going to be equal to black. This is RGB format, and this is the color black. As you know, we have our common method, so we have our update, which receives self. I'm gonna pass it for now. We have our show method, which receives self. We are obviously not having a set texture method as we used to have, because the score doesn't need a texture, right? Okay, so let me show you how I want the score to look like. Here I have the original game, and I want to recreate this score that you can see on the right top of the screen, so right here. So we have like a HI, which stands for high score, then we have our high score, and then we have our current score. So we're gonna be doing that. We're gonna be recreating that score. So inside of our show method, go ahead and type self.label. If you haven't worked with fonts before, with Pygame fonts, this is pretty much the same each time. So you have to create a font, then a label, and you'll see. But it's pretty much the same lines of code. So go ahead and type self.font.render. I'm gonna put my F here, and we're gonna open these quotation marks, and we're gonna put HI, such as the original game. Then we're gonna put our self.highscore, as I show you, and then we're gonna put our self.actual score. Then the next param is something called the anti-alias. I'm gonna set it equal to 1, and then it asks for a color, so we're gonna use the self.color. Now we're gonna do something that you'll see why it's important, but for now let me just code it. So go ahead and type label width, and this is going to be equal to the self.label.getRect, like this, .width. So we're just getting the width of this label that we created right here, and then we're gonna bleed it on screen, so we can type screen.bleed. We want to bleed our self.label, and then it asks for a position, so we're gonna type width minus the label width minus 10. This is a hard-coded value, you can play with it, comma 10 for the y-axis. So yeah, you'll see why we need this label width, but for now let's just code it. I'll explain it later when we see it. We're gonna leave our update method empty for now, and let's go ahead and we'll show this score. So the first thing we want to do is actually create a property of score inside of our game class. So go ahead and type self.score equals a new score. Then we want to go to our main function inside of our main loop, and down here below the cactus section we want to have a score section, and we want to just put game.score.show. Remember, here we're gonna have something like game.score.update. You can actually code it because it's actually empty, so it's not gonna do something, and we can save the file and run it to see how it looks. Oh, okay, so we have a problem. We're missing the HS param here. My bad. So right here we need to send an HS, and obviously we're gonna start with a high score equal to 0. We're gonna be coding the high score in a moment, but for now obviously we have a high score of 0. So now we can run the file. Yeah, we have a problem here. We're gonna fix it right now, but when we start playing, the score is being displayed, as you can see. Obviously we have not coded the logic behind the score, but yeah, let me fix these. So basically, as soon as we create our score, we want to show it. So we just call the self.show inside of our init method of the score class. So now we can run the file, and as you can see, we have our score being displayed on screen. Okay, so let's continue by coding the logic behind the score. So remember that we are receiving loops as a parameter in other update methods, such as the one of the Dino and the one, I think it is of the cactus, no, of the game class right here to spawn. So the loops variable is basically a way to know when we have to do something. So for the score class, for the logic behind the score, we're gonna use that. We're gonna use our loops variable. And it's going to be something like self.act. So our current score is gonna be loops divided by 10. So yeah, you can play with this value, but it actually worked pretty good for me. So yeah, we update our current score, and then we can, basically check our high score. So check if this actual score is greater than our high score. So this is a method that we're going to create down here. So def check high score, we're gonna receive self, and it's gonna be super simple. We're just checking if the self.actual score is greater than or equal to our self.highscore. And if that's true, we want to set our self.highscore to be equal to our self.actual. So yeah, we have our update method. It's pretty simple. I'm gonna save the file. Oh yeah, we need to pass the loops variable, obviously. So let's go inside of our main loop. Let me see right here. We're gonna pass as a parameter our loops variable. Okay, so we have our game, and as soon as I press the spacebar key, you can see the score starts to update. Now, as I told you, I like the logic that I'm using, so loops divided by 10, I think that's the perfect update speed, but you can, obviously play with that number and choose the one that you like the most. But yeah, so we have it, we have our score, we have our high score also updating. We're gonna be doing some more things for the high score to work properly, because we want it to be persistent. Now, before we continue coding, I want to explain to you this line of code. So right here, the label width. So it's basically telling the program that, you know, the score label is increasing its width because we are increasing the score, right? Now, we're telling the program with these 2 lines of code, like, okay, I want the score label to be dynamic. So when the width is increasing, I want the label to readjust its position on screen. So it's basically telling that. So I just wanted to explain to you that. Okay, let's start coding our restart function. Then we're gonna add some more labels like the game over label. And finally, we're gonna add the sounds to our game. So, okay, restart function. So we need a restart function inside of our score class and inside of our game class. So let's start with the score class. I'm gonna call it reset. We're gonna receive self as parameter, and it's basically going to, well, set the actual score to 0. Pretty easy. Now inside of the game class, we're gonna use 2 functions. We're gonna use the over function and a new function that we're gonna create that is actually the responsible of restarting the game. Why do we need 2 functions? Because it's not the same to have a game over than to restart our game. That's why we need 2 functions. So I don't know if I'm being clear. I'm gonna show you. So this is a game over situation, but when I press this button, that's a restart. So we should call the restart function. So that's why we need two different functions. So I'm actually going to code it down below, so right here. So go ahead and type def restart. We're gonna receive self as parameter, and it's gonna be super simple. We're just going to call our init method, and that's it. So it's basically calling the init method, and you know that when we call an init method, well, we create a game. So we are somehow restarting all these properties to the default values. So pretty simple. Now inside the over function, we're gonna do some other things, but before that, let's actually call our restart function. So down here inside of our events loop, we're gonna add a new event inside of our event event type equals key down. So when we press a key, we're gonna type if event.key equals pygame.k_r. So I'm using R to restart the game. We're going to, well, game.restart, call the restart function. Now also we need to, well, do some other things inside of this if statement. We need to restart the loops, so the loops variable. I'm actually putting a comment here telling these are our variables, because we're gonna create, I think, some other variables in a while. We also have to copy this line of code, so the Dino equals game.dino. So let's do that. So it will be Dino equals game.dino. Make sure to put this line of code if you are doing this. If you are using game.dino through the main loop, you don't have to do this. But if you're using a variable, you need to restart this variable, because we restarted the game, so we need a new Dino. And loops, go ahead and set it to 0. So okay, I'm gonna save the file. I'm gonna run it to see if it works. So we have our score. I'm gonna lose. Okay, I'm gonna press the R key, and as you can see, it restarts. So awesome. Now we need to do some things. The first thing is to save our Highscore. That's pretty easy. And the second thing is that let me show you. So I'm gonna lose again. I want that when we lose, a label is displayed. So a game over label is rendered on screen. So let's go ahead and do that. So yeah, we're gonna start by doing the label inside of our game class, and then we're gonna do the Highscore. We're gonna fix the Highscore bug. So I'm gonna do it inside the over. Now actually we need to create a new method inside of our game class, and I'm gonna call it def, well, not def, but set labels. So we're gonna call it set labels. We're gonna receive self as parameter, and we're gonna pass it for now. And we wanna call this method inside of our init method. So each time we create a game, we wanna set its labels. Okay, so the code is gonna be the following. We're gonna have a big font, or something that I call big font. You'll see what I'm talking about. This is going to be equal to pygame.font.sysfont. We're gonna use monospace and a font size of 24, and this is going to be a bold font, so bold equal true. Now we're gonna have also a small font, so I'm gonna copy this thing, I'm gonna paste it right here, and we're gonna change the size to 18, and we don't want it to be bold, so like this. Then we're gonna create our labels, so we're gonna have a big label. Remember, this is always the same when you're creating or you're working with Pygame fonts. So the big label is gonna be the big font dot render. I'm gonna put the F keyword right here, and it's gonna the label, it's going to be a game over, and I like to put it like this with spaces in between. You'll see it looks awesome. The anti-alias is gonna be 1, and the color is going to be black. I'm not gonna create a variable for the color. You can literally just put it there. And we need a small label also, so go ahead and copy this, paste it right here, change the big font to a small font, and we're gonna render something like press R to restart. Anti-alias is 1, and the color is also black. So okay, this method is pretty simple. We are just setting or creating the labels. Now when we lose, so when we have a game over, so right here we want to show those labels. So go ahead and type screen.bleed, and we want to bleed the self.big label, and the position is gonna be the following. It's gonna be something like width divided by 2 minus the self.big label dot get width divided by 2. I know this is kind of confusing, but we are just centering the label with this code. And the height, it will be height divided by 4. So that will center, or that will put the big label where we want it to be. Now we want to do the same with the small label, so screen.bleed self.small label. The position is going to be width divided by 2 minus the self.small label dot get width divided by 2, and the y is going to be height divided by 2. So I know it might be confusing, but let me show you how this looks. I'm gonna run the file, and I'm gonna lose to see our labels. Okay, so we had a problem. Oh, I didn't put brackets here, my bad. So make sure you put brackets. And now it should work. So I'm gonna lose. And as you can see, we have a game over label. This is what I mean with, well, with big font or with big label, and this is what I mean with small font or small label. Now we need to fix this because the obstacles are being bleeded on top of the label, and we don't want that, but we're gonna do that in a moment. That's not actually, well, important. Now when I restart the game, the labels are gonna go are gonna disappear. So it's working correctly. Now we're gonna fix the Highscore issue. So remember we have, let me show you, we are receiving a param here called Highscore. So the idea is the following: each time we lose, we want to send the Highscore that we had on the previous game. So for that, we need to add a new param to our game class, and we're gonna call it Highscore with a default of 0. So go ahead and type this inside of our game class. Now right here, instead of sending a 0 or hard code 0, we're gonna send the Highscore, which is actually 0. But the different thing here is that when we restart the game, we're gonna send our Highscore to be equal to the self.score.Highscore. And this will make our Highscore persistent. Let me show you. So I'm gonna run the file. So we have our Highscore there increasing. I lose. We have a Highscore of 38, as you can see. I'm gonna restart the game, and as you can see, the Highscore remains on screen. Pretty cool. Now if I beat my Highscore, you can see it actually overwrites the previous Highscore. So this is pretty cool. Let me show you again. We did a Highscore of 103, and when I restart the game, we continue having that Highscore. So yeah, we solved the Highscore issue. So yeah, we're almost finished. We need to add the sounds. That will be pretty easy. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm gonna close our classes. So when you are working with Pygame sounds, the first thing you want to do is initialize something called the mixer. So go ahead and type pygame.mixer.init. Okay, so we have 3 sounds. Let me show you. We have the die sound, we have the jump sound, and the point sound. So let me explain. The die sound is gonna be played when we lose a game. The jump sound is gonna be played when we jump, and the point sound is gonna be played when we have a score multiple of 100. So if you go to the Google's original game, you'll see each time you achieve 100 points, a sound is gonna be played. So there you have. As you can see, we have the 3 sounds: the jump, the die, and the one that we receive when achieving 100 points. So let's start doing that. It will be the same line of code for all, literally, so we have to copy and paste the same code 3 times. So let's start with the jump sound. That sound is gonna be inside of our Dino class. So we're gonna create a new method right here. We're gonna call it set sound. This is gonna be a common method as well. So we're gonna have a path, and it's gonna be equal to us.path dot join, and it's gonna be assets / sounds / jump dot wav. There we have it. And then we can type self.sound equals pygame.mixer.sound, and as a parameter we pass the path. So we have our sound. Now we need to play the sound, so we're gonna do this inside the jump method. So each time we jump, we wanna do self.sound.play. Pretty simple, and that's all. So we finish with our Dino class. Oh, okay, actually we need to call it, right here. So self.setSound, and that's it. So yeah. Now the next sound we wanna create is the point one. So when we achieve 100 points, so let's go ahead and do that. Let's actually start by calling it. So self.setSound. It's gonna be pretty much the same, and we're gonna do this right here. So def set sound self as param. I'm gonna copy the previous code, so this one I'm gonna paste it, and we're gonna change the name to point. Now we need a new method to check if we have a score multiple of 100. So right here I'm gonna create it. Pretty simple. Check sound. I'm gonna call it like that. We're gonna receive self as parameter, and we're gonna check if the self.act model 100 is equal to 0, and the self.act is not 0, well, we wanna self.sound.play. We wanna play our sound, and that's it. We have it. Now, by the way, I think we don't need this reset function, so go ahead and we'll delete it because we are not using it, and I actually saw the code and we are not gonna use it, so go ahead and delete it. Now the last sound, it's gonna be the die sound, and that's gonna be inside of our game class. So again, call it right here, so self.setSound. We're gonna create it, let me see, I think right here, def set sound. We're gonna receive self. I'm gonna paste the code that I copied, and we're gonna change the name to die. That's it. And we wanna play it when the game is over, so right here, so self.sound.play. That's it. And yeah, I think we literally finished the game. I wanna add some things, but there are small things. The first one is that when we create the game, I wanna immediately spawn a cactus. So remember, we spawn a cactus. Each time loops is a multiple of 100, but I want to do it, I want to do the first cactus. I want to spawn the first cactus immediately when we create the game. So okay, we finish our classes. So yeah, I'm gonna save the file and I'm gonna run it to see if it actually works. So let's see if the sounds are working. So yeah, as you can see, the jumping sound is working. I'm gonna try to achieve 100 points. Oh my god, I lost. But okay, the game over sound is working. Oh, okay. I know what's happening. We're not calling the function. So it's called check sound. We wanna call this right here in the update. So self.check sound. My bad. Now it should work. Okay, we have the sound. Awesome. So our 3 sounds are working perfectly, are working correctly. Now we're missing some things. The first one, we need to fix this hack that I recently showed you. Let me show you again. Because when we lose, so right here, when we lose, if I press the spacebar key, you can see that we continue playing, and that shouldn't be possible. And the second thing we want to fix is the label. So I want the label to be rendered on top of the obstacles. So let's go ahead and do that. So inside of our main function, I'm going to create a new variable. I'm going to call it over equals false. And inside of our spacebar if statement, go ahead and type if not over. Well, we want to do this. This is gonna fix the hack that I show you. We also want to restart or reset it right here. So over equals false, and that's it. Now we fixed the hack, but now we need to fix the label thing. So that's gonna be pretty simple. Let me show you, or let me explain what is happening. We are looping through all of our obstacles. We're checking for collision. Now what happens? When we have a collision, we call the game over method, which is the one responsible of rendering the labels. Now the loop is gonna continue looping, yeah, and cactus are gonna be continue being displayed on screen because of the show method. So it will render the cactus, or it will bleed the cactus on top of our label, and we don't want that. This is just a style. We already have the game. So we're gonna change one thing. So instead of calling game over here, we're gonna put over equals true, and outside of the for loop, we're gonna put if over. We wanna call our game.over, and that will fix that bug. So yeah, I think we have the game ready. So let me show you. I'm gonna try to show you what we will just coded. So I'm gonna press the spacebar key, and as you can see, nothing happens. So that's pretty good. Now I'm gonna see the label thing. Okay, as you can see, the label is being rendered on top of the obstacles or the cactus, so that's what we wanted. So yeah, we have our game. This is the final version of the game. So yeah, we did it. We coded the Google's Dino game. It's not exactly the same, because this one has, well, yeah, it has some other things. Physics are different. I think it's a little bit more faster. It has more cactus. It has also birds, but yeah, I mean, it's a pretty good, well, a pretty good clone. And yeah, I hope you liked this tutorial. I hope you learned something. Make sure if you find any bug or any issue with the game, make sure to leave it on the comments. I'll try to fix them. And yeah, you have the repository of the game on the description below. And yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.